So karibu sana again to our conversations today, and today I'm going to talk about a topic within parenting. Remember, parenting is what we love doing. It is our topic that we are so passionate about, always trying to figure out what we are doing wrong and what we are doing right, so that we ensure that our children have that privilege to grow up in a very good environment that we as parents are actually providing for them to grow up. And so today I'm going to focus on something about a conscious parent. I'm going to ask you, when do you realize that you are actually becoming a conscious parent? Try think about that. What are some of the things that are actually going to tell you that you've moved from just ordinary parent and becoming a conscious parent? Really revisit our conversation that we've been having all along, understanding that parenting is not only about what we give to our children, what we tell our children, but more of what also happens inside ourselves. So that is what we are going to look at. Actually, what will tell you that you are actually moving from the ordinary parent into becoming a conscious parent. And one of the things that I want you to understand is that the indicators of that is when you realize that your constant routine, your constant advices to your children, your constant instructions towards your children, all the pressures that you always have about parenting your children gives way to actually deep understanding that presence matters more than perfection. And so when you start moving from being a perfect parent to being a parent who is present and self-aware of the situations that are happening around him or herself, then you're actually moving from being the ordinary parent towards being a conscious parent. And for that, you have to congratulate yourself, because we are somewhere. We are moving towards our goal, towards working on ourselves and understanding ourselves, so that we become good parents and we become better parents. Then we give that privilege to our children so that they grow up to be better. And I know you, as you think about that, you're also reflecting back to what we've been doing as parents. And most of the things that we've been doing that actually separates us from being ordinary parents and conscious parents is a thing that we've inherited. Think about how you've been actually parenting your children. We think about how our parents were being very strict on our issues, being very commanding, and giving very firm instructions. Then unconsciously, we bring that to our children. We either adopt a very, very, very strict method of parenting, or those who think that this strictness was not very good for me, then we go to the other extreme end, the opposite of strictness. So either we become too strict, or we actually abandon the strictness and become too soft to our children. And either we doesn't give our children that good environment to grow up well. Another thing that we've actually inherited from previous parenting methods, or how we were parented, is that we have resorted into setting boundaries from fear. We set boundaries for our children out of our fears, not out of love. Think about every boundary that you've set for your child. Was it because of love for that child? Or was it because of the fears that you had of your own? 99% of the parents will admit this, that most of the boundaries that we've set for our children is purely out of fear. Fear of what is going to happen with my child. Fear of what people are going to talk about my child. Fear of what is becoming. So everything that we do, every boundaries that we set, every decision that we make for our children, it's actually coming from that aspect of fear that is inside ourselves, not even about our children. It's inside ourselves. And another thing is you as a parent, when you actually parent your children from an angle of reactiveness, we are never there to actually tell these children what is right and what is wrong. But we only arrive at their space when they make something wrong or when they do something that is not right. So we are there to react. In fact, in a harsh way, in the name of correction. But then, you are never there to teach them. You are never there to demonstrate to them what is right thing to do. But you parent from that angle of reactiveness. Remember, we've talked about conscious parent being a responsive parent, not a reactive parent. So those are some of the things that we actually have inherited from our previous life. How we were parented, how we listened to people doing their parenting, advices that we've gotten from people telling us how we are supposed to do with our children. And out of all those things, we actually come up with those sample of the things that I've shared with you and choose them to try parent our children. And we realize that that one is actually what we are calling ordinary parenting. Parenting without having that self-awareness and without having that consciousness of what is happening around you and around your children. But remember, that is what you're advocating for. Becoming conscious and understanding what is happening around you and around your children, so that we make the right decisions for our children to look, learn, and actually develop those values and characteristics. Something else that I want us to actually check is then when we are talking about conscious parenting, how we are actually trying to describe the difference between this ordinary parent and this parent who is becoming conscious, and looking at those lines that when you start to understand that your advice, your strictness, your instructions, your pressure of parenting there at home are all things that are coming from what we inherited in the past. And if these things begin to pave way for the understanding that presence is most important than these other things, then we start realizing that we are crossing that line from just being ordinary parents into becoming conscious parents. And what I actually want to stress a little bit is, what are the changes that you actually start noticing when you are moving or crossing this line and coming from just ordinary parent to being a conscious parent? You will start realizing that there is more connection within your home, that people do not move as robots. And by people I mean your children, your family. They don't move as robots, but there is that connection, there is that communication, there is that understanding, there is that empathy within a home. That is when you start realizing that a change has happened within the environment there at home, as a result of you actually trying to cross that line from ordinary parenting to being a conscious parent. I want to share with you this small story about this man and his daughter. This wasn't actually a therapy session. This was just a communication with a fellow man that we happened to be in the same place, in the same space, and having a conversation about parenting. So this guy was complaining about her daughter actually having those signs of defiance. She's still a little daughter, still growing up, and this man is a well-off person, and his complaint was, whenever I tell this young child or a daughter of mine to do something, she tends to ignore in most cases. She tends to feel sad whenever I tell her something. She is defiant to me. But then I asked him to elaborate that further. What are you telling her to do? And to my surprise was that the normal things that happen in a home, things like, hey, take that cup from the table and take it to the kitchen. And this child will act defiance. For example, she will sit there and have his father talk the second time or even the third time before she stands up and reluctantly picks that cup and heads to the kitchen. It's no normal, right? But it happens even in your home, in your house. It happens to the children. They act like they want you to talk and talk and talk before they respond to one instruction. You give them advice, but then they do not follow that advice. And yet you don't stop and ask yourself, what is happening? We had a very lengthy conversation with this man, and what I gave her was a challenge that instead of directing her that way, or instead of shouting for her to actually pick that cup and take it to the kitchen, have a calm conversation with this child. If she doesn't do that, then ask her why. Why do you want to be defiant to me? Who do you want to be agreeable to in this house? And trust me, when we met again with this man, the story was different. He had actually created that connection with his daughter because of sitting down and calmly engaging this child. What this man didn't know is that most of the interactions before with this child was out of instructions, commands, and directions. And the more it went on, the more fear was created in this man that this child is going to be defiant on me. And the more the fear was there, the more the commands fell firm, the more the instructions were more, the more the advice was there. But then what this man didn't know is that he was actually transmitting this fear into his child. The child was living that fear. And you can actually understand it, that it's natural for any human being, including you. Whenever we actually face commands, whenever we face instructions, whenever we face directing words, it is instinctively human nature to be defiant to such commands. The child is unconsciously developing that fear and trying to be defiant. And it is not her fear. It is fear that is being installed into her from the father himself. And so when that man realized that it is out of his fears, anger, that he actually had those kind of interaction with his daughter before, he actually worked on himself, worked on that fear for himself. And then he ended up actually calmly engaging with his child and making a connection with the child. And today, he's a happy man. The child is very agreeable to his father, not out of commands, instructions, or forceful advices, out of connections, understanding, and emotional response to this child. So the child developed the aspect of, this is a safe person. This is a person who wants me to develop. This is a person who cares because he listens to me. He doesn't just direct me what to do. He listens to me. And he sees me. He feels me. That is how there was connection. And out of that connection, respect grew in that case. And how does parenting becomes a path for personal growth? Remember, we say that it is upon you working on yourself so that you can transition from ordinary parenting to conscious parenting. And how that transition also becomes your path to growth. Remember, as you work on yourself, you're working on your emotional regulation. You're working on your leadership abilities. You're talking on actually working on your communication abilities. Because look at the scenario at home when your children are there. Look at that environment. They're emotional. Children are emotional. They are talking, they are communicating. Actually, the way they are there, they are relating to each other. And so these three qualities in you will really work in hand as they learn from you. Having that ability to regulate your emotion, those good leadership skills, and that communication skills really works well when your children can learn those aspects from you. And remember, you cannot develop them just from sitting there and saying, sure, I'm a parent. No, you'll have to work on yourself. And through working on yourself, that one is also what we are calling personal growth. So it also gives you that chance to develop yourself as a person, to grow together with your children. So as your children learn from you, you keep also learning and developing all those values and that character that will make you feel, I am becoming a good parent. I'm actually transitioning from ordinary parenting into conscious parenting. And so I want to actually challenge you today that when you go back to your home, look at those children of yours. Look at how they behave. Look at how they communicate. Look at how they relate with amongst themselves. Try to see what they talk to each other. Then try to identify your characters in those children. You will see a reflection of you from how they interact, from how they communicate, and from how they actually talk to each other. And that will actually tell you what you're supposed to work on as a person and what you're supposed to make sure that you're developing so that you become a conscious parent. And so I invite you into this. Welcome. Let us learn. Let us develop ourselves. And let us become good, respectful parents and create that better environment for our children to actually learn, through observation and develop better values so that they can grow up to be good and respectable individuals in future.